Hello and welcome to the 18th layer of hell.
Done my glass!
Otherwise known as For Honor. But I assure you, there is no honor here. For Honor is a 4v4, most of the time, hero-based fighting game. Thing. And I believe it was purposefully designed to lower the human populace.
You captured Zone C.
And I hate it. I also have 500 hours. For Honor at its core is based on deception. If I wanted to be pretentious, I'd say it was like a game of chess but with violence. For Honor has two main types of attacks with some other more niche ones. Light and heavies. Lights are faster, and heavies are slower but do more damage. If you heavy while someone is swinging at you in the same direction they swung, you parry it, leaving them open for a light. Or if you parry a light, open for a heavy. Now, every character has different chains, which are just a different combination of buttons that do different things. However, if every character just did their chain over and over, you could always just parry it and then punish, which is where For Honor's main form of combat comes in. Feints. Feints are just canceling an attack mid-swing. You can only feint heavies. This is where that deception comes in. This Kensei just heavied at you. What do? If he lets it fly, you can either block it or go for the parry so you can punish. If he feints and you didn't see it coming, he could just punish you. If you ignore the attack because you're expecting him to feint, you get punished for it. This is all already a lot, but it gets even more complicated when the different effects are thrown in. Unblockables, undodgeables, and bleed. Unblockables you can't block, undodgeables you can't dodge, and bleed does damage over time. So the game boils down to getting a good read on your opponents and what they're likely to do. If they let that attack fly the last 4 times, they're probably going to do it the 5th time. But that guy that just threw it 4 times knows you're going to think that, so he doesn't throw it. This game of prediction and outplaying happens every attack, and it's some of the most satisfying gameplay I've ever experienced. But suddenly, all of that goes out the window because the enemy picked Nobushi.
Defeat.
My relationship with this game is an abusive one. You see, some people hate all of this complex counterplay and thinking, and just pick one of the Vikings. I didn't bring it up earlier, but there are 3 factions in the game. Plus 2. The Knights, the Samurai, and the Vikings. And then the... In my opinion, you can tell someone's entire personality just based on which faction they play the most. Knights are generally pretty chill. Sometimes they can have a bit of a superiority complex because of how their characters are simpler and thus harder to perform well with in their heads. Samurai can be pretty cocky and toxic sometimes, and also they're weebs because of how flashy and complex some of their characters are. But again, mostly fine. Vikings. Oh man, Vikings. If you see a Viking, you'll be jumped, humped, and then called a combination of slurs you've never heard before. And with the other 2 factions, it's really a toss-up, who cares? This game is class-based. There are a number of characters that all have different movesets and different gimmicks. I'm not going to go into all of the characters because there's a lot of them. But just for example, I'll bring up my favorite and 2 least favorites because I hate most of these characters. I'm a warden. And I've been a Night Enjoyer since I started playing the game, so yes, I am better than you. I play Warden because they have the best armor. I'll get back to that later, but also because of the simplicity.
Victory!
Warden has basically 2 moves. The bash and the unblockable heavy. Compared to someone like Virtuosa, who will be relevant later, that's like basically nothing. So the way you're gonna get damage is just outreading your opponent. However, my personal favorite strategy is to turn my brain off and just let it fly every time. As demonstrated in this clip, I did the unblockable, thought I would feint. I didn't. Second time, thought surely he wouldn't do it again. They never see it coming. Now wardens are generally pretty normal as human beings, but you're definitely going to find some terrible humans. But that's kind of the case with all the characters, because everyone who plays this game sucks. Now for my least favorite character in the game. This one took a lot of pondering. Virtuosa has a whole section later in the video, so not her. Berserker has a bunch of hyper armor, I'll get into that later. Griffin has like 2 attacks. But then, it hit me. Shaman. Shaman is a Viking, and in case you didn't pick up on it the first time, I don't like Vikings. I dislike her for a few key reasons. First off, there are a few effects an attack can have. Unblockable means it has to be parried or dodged. Hyper armor means it's uninterruptible except for a bash or grab. Undodgeable meaning it can't be dodged and has to be blocked, parried, or interrupted. Soft feints meaning it doesn't give off the feint indicator, it just changes direction. Stamina drain, which drains stamina. And my least favorite, bleed. I mentioned these briefly earlier, but I don't think you got the full extent of it. Listen, there are a few characters that do bleed that I find fair. One of these is Peacekeeper. She gets a bleed follow-up if she gets a heavy or a dodge attack off, if she soft feints or gets a grab. These feel like, okay, fair enough. Now Shaman has a deflect bleed attack, unblockable, soft feints, and more importantly, if they get bleed off and they get the pounce on you, it does 35 damage.
Oh my goodness!
That is as much as Warden's unblockable heavies, and she gets health back on hit. Now, I'm not gonna say she's overpowered. Actually, she's not overpowered, even a little bit. I'm just bad at the game, and it pisses me off. Pardon me. I lost my temper. More briefly, I dislike Shinobi because he's a slippery, conniving bastard.
To hang myself, off and left!
So you might be sitting there going, oh, but that's just a skill issue, or oh, just don't get grabbed, or oh, Shinobi's actually D tier, or whatever. But here's the thing. This game has some of the least clear rankings I've ever seen. All I know is that Afura is good.
Okay.
When you're playing this game, the characters you hate are going to be different for everybody. Listen, the way it works is, if I am not playing them, they are overpowered. So yes, it may be a skill issue, but I don't play Shinobi, so he should be nerfed. Now, I've talked about how the gameplay pisses me off, but I've only really alluded to the toxicity problem. But really, it's the main thing you need to prepare for. Alright, there are 4 main things you can say in the quick chat. Good fight, sorry, wow, and the dreaded thanks. There's never a good reason to use thanks. You see, I'm pretty sure how Ubisoft intended for these to be used was like, if you ledge someone by accident, you say sorry, or like at the end of a round, you say good fight. What's far more common is if you were to get jumped, then for them to spam, wow, wow, thanks, like they actually accomplished anything. And then you turn around, dominate them, and then you spam thanks, thanks, thanks. The words don't actually mean anything, it's just the act of spamming that's the important part. See, this game does something to people. I explained the gameplay loop earlier of like prediction and deception, right? That only clicked for me after 20 hours. There was another 100 before I was even half decent. So when someone just starts out, and they don't understand that you can't just swing. When they're out of stamina, they just keep throwing. They're getting jumped, they just stand there and they die. And then their enemy humps on their body and spams in quick chat. It plants a seed in their brain that is how you are supposed to behave when you beat someone in this game. And it is pretty funny. So, now that all leads me to my final point. There's a character that represents everything I hate about this game. Toxic, annoying, spammy, and brainless. The newest character, Virtuosa. She's a fencer, a character type that players, and me specifically, have wanted for a long time. So when I heard that she was getting added, I was pretty hyped. I figured she'd have a lot of soft feints and superior block attacks. She does have those, along with every other mechanic in the game. If she swings and then stands there, She is immune to everything in the game besides an undodgeable and a grab. And if someone goes for a grab, any competent virtuosa will just light. And not every character has an undodgeable. So in essence, the only way to counter her is to parry her lights. And parrying her lights is not a counter, that's just being better than her at the game. Listen, I consider myself pretty decent. My reaction time is fine. I can light parry semi-reliably, but I cannot for the life of me figure her out. And I can already hear you saying, skill issue. And yes, it is a skill issue, but the problem is that she takes no skill, not that I have no skill. Her dodging mechanic is passive. There are other characters with powerful gimmicks that are more difficult to perform well with. For example, Sohei. Honestly, he's pretty underpowered, he desperately needs a buff, but shut up. Sohei has a mechanic that allows you to damn near one-shot most characters in the game. It sounds overpowered, and so you take into account that he needs to get 2 grabs, which any competent person will not let happen, or get multiple follow-ups that are incredibly easy to block. Compared to the build-up Sohei has to get his, like, powerful gimmick move, Virtuosa presses a 1 button. I hate this game. And ultimately, it does come down to the fact that I can't beat most Virtuosas in a fight. But if you refer to my earlier hypothesis, if I am not playing them, they are overpowered. I don't play Virtuosa, so... Side note, nothing I just said was true. Okay, technically that's not true. Everything I just said was subjective. I hate fighting Vikings because I'm bad. I hate fighting Virtuosa because I'm bad. The shaman hate is true though. I hope you weren't expecting an in-depth professional review when you clicked on this. Yes, all of that was part 2. Anyway, you might be sitting there asking, well, why do you play this game? That's a good question. I mean, if I really racked my brain. Number 1, the gameplay, but I went over that already. 2, the fashion. Now, I mentioned earlier that I play Warden mostly for the fashion. Let me expand on that real quick. Every character has different parts you can swap out, change the color of engraving, add symbols, change the material. This leads to a damn near perfect dress-up simulator. Unless you play Sohei. If you want edgelord, you can. If you want to be super realistic, you can. And if you want to do whatever this is, you can.
Subway, eat fresh.
Now, the main reason I play knights is that they have the best fashion potential, in my opinion, in the game. Now, as for why I still play after I make my guy all purdy, it's the funny. Given how punishing and demoralizing the main gameplay loop is, you kind of expect for it to be really aggravating. And it is. But once you played For Honor for a while, like 300 hours, you start finding the humor in it. If you get hit by a Shigoki who just heavies 5 times and kills you, I just can't get mad. That's fair enough. And then there's the saw-like executions, which you kind of expect for this, you know, real serious and edgy. And it can be. But then, you know, something like this happens.
Watch out, watch out, watch out, watch out!
Yeah, and it just makes me laugh. And for the fashion part, if everyone on your team is dripped out, most historically accurate or like serious, honorable outfits, whatever, and you put on this, you have to admit that's pretty funny. That's why I made my pride and joy this thing. He's my best work. I've put together better outfits, but I just throw them on whenever I feel like being a moron, and it's fun. I play For Honor for games like these. Nobody is taking it seriously. I'm just gonna throw up some clips.
Good fight.
Now, I don't suggest you install this game, but if you, for some godforsaken reason, decide to, you kind of have to embrace that it's objectively pretty terrible. It will start a crippling addiction, though.